questions on the banking primarily. Let me fix ourselves. We fix ourselves with the impact of banking. Let me start our short, crisp discussion in oriented to exam. Let me start ourselves with the banking sector. Banking sector. What is the significant banking sector? In our exam point of view, what we have to discuss in the banking sector in India today? A banking sector in India represents a resilience in the banking sector. Resilience due to certain factors, the factors of global economic shocks, the global economic headwinds, the global economic headwinds or the global economic shocks. What are the global economic constraints? One important global economic constraints. Any idea, friends? Any idea? Any idea? Any idea of the global economic constraints? The economic survey of 2022-23 highlights the most important global economic constraint was of the geopolitical uncertainties, the geopolitical spillovers, the spillover of the geopolitical crisis as the Ukrainian crisis. Ukrainian crisis as the spillover. Ukrainian crisis resulted in a greater disruptions in the global supply chains. Ukrainian crisis resulted in spillover of the Ukrainian crisis resulted in the rise in the commodity prices, rise in the commodity prices, oil, important commodity of the national economies, oil and important commodities of the national economies. So this is the geopolitical spillover of the geopolitical crisis is the global economic factor. Then the second very important global economic factor was of the monetary tightening, global monetary tightening. What is that global monetary tightening, friends? What is the sorry, I don't like. We should not waste the time. 1+. The global monetary tightening. That means almost all the central banks of the world, especially the US Federal Bank, as involved in a rise of the interest rates. That the interest rate hikes by the central bank. Rise of interest rates. What happens? The rise of federal interest rates. What happened? The rise of federal interest rates. The interest rates of the US Federal Bank, US Central Bank, have the greater connectivity. Interest rate of the dear money policy. Okay. Interest rate of the greater dear money. What is dear money policy? What is dear money policy in Kagringla? Hello. That is rising the interest rate. Rise in the interest rate leads to dear dollar. It is a dear dollar policy, actually. The dollar becomes dear. Dollar becomes valuable. Dollar, that is a rise in the value of the dollars. Dollars would be appreciated. Since the dollars is appreciated, there would be a shift of capital investors. There would be a shift of the global investors from middle income economies to the developed economies, to the US economies. Most of the global investor in the Indian secondary market would shift their capital to the US economies, to the US markets, to the US market. So it was the global monetary tightening resulted in the shift of capital investments from the emerging middle income economies to the higher but to the developed economies. That resulted in lack of investment deficits. So that is the second important factor. That is the second important factor. One is the global one is the spillover of the geopolitical crisis. Then the second one is the global monetary tightening. And the third important factor. The third important factor was the post-COVID recovery. The post-COVID recovery was accompanied with the inflation. That means the inflation that occurred, that is the rise in prices at the time of post-COVID recovery due to pent-up demand. Pent-up demand means the demand that was suddenly released. Demand that was suddenly released after a long period of time. You see, the economic lockdown due to the impact of the COVID has constrained the household consumption for a long period of time. When it was suddenly released, that leads to pent up demand, which need accelerated supply, But the supply side bottlenecks in India resulted in inflation. So these three factors resulted in havoc in many economies. But the banking sector in India, the Indian economy, were able to display resilience, in India. So they display the resilience that we should know know about the banking sector. Then what are the important components that we have to concentrate on the study of banking sector today? The study of banking sector, one important components was associated with the role of RBI. The important components that was associated with the role of RBI. Then the second one is the component associated with the other banks, the commercial banks, especially the NPAs of the commercial banks. That was the important component. And the third important component of our studies was the banking consolidation. போதும் இத மூணு பாத்துங்க. Okay friends, okay. Concentrate on these three aspects. One is the role of RBI. What is the new role? What is the latest development in the role of the RBI? The latest development in the role of RBI was of the transfer of RBI surplus and profits to the government of India. Transfer of RBI surplus and profits to the government of India. How the RBI creates the profit? How the RBI creates the profits, friends? How the RBI creates the profits? RBI creates the profits in various forms. RBI creates the profits, especially in the role of RBI forex management. RBI forex management. That means mitigating the impact of the forex inflows, impact of dollar inflows into the domestic market, mitigating the dollar inflows into the domestic market. So RBI forex management in the form of sterilization, in the form of the sterilization or concept. Sterilization is a method of mitigating inflationary impact caused by surplus capital inflow into the domestic market. That means more and more capital, dollar capital, would leads to inflation. So RBI applies the concept of sterilization. That means RBI purchases the dollars. RBI purchases the dollars and securitize the dollars and converts these securities into rupees. Are you clear? Friends? Are you clear? So converts these securities into friends. The RBI converts the dollars into the securities and sells these securities into the domestic market. By that, RBI sucks rupee. Are you clear? Friends?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
RBI sucks the rupee at the time of higher capital inflow, at the time of rise in the inflation due to the higher capital inflow. And the reverse was done. When the scarcity of the dollar occur, in which the RBI, when the scarcity of the dollar occur, RBI sells the security. RBI repurchases the securities and converts into dollars. So, in the course of sterilization operations of the RBI, there is a valuation